G'day reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Thanks for watching Aquatica TV. Moving house is one of the most stressful things that you ever have to do. And when you also have to relocate a massive, epic reef tank, it's so much more difficult. Today we're at stage 3 of the relocation of one of our favorite tanks, the LPS Lagoon. We've set up a temporary system to move everything into. It's just behind the store, so let's go check it out. You may remember the LPS Lagoon from previous videos on Aquatica TV. It's a massive tank. It's 8 feet long, 3 feet wide by 2 feet high. And there are hundreds of corals and fish in this tank. Now we've actually relocated the tank, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. But whilst we were relocating the tank, we had to ensure that the fish and the corals were safe. And so we've set up a temporary system that we could move the fish and the corals into. So this is what we have here. We have an aquaculture pond which holds 1,500 litres, and we have all of the corals from the LPS Lagoon amongst this tank. They've been here for a week and everything is looking really, really happy. We moved the lights, the whole light structure from the LPS Lagoon straight onto this pond, and so the lighting has remained exactly the same. We're very careful to acclimate the corals into this new system very carefully, and the corals are doing great. We have some wave makers going, and you can see there's a proper system. We have a sump over here which the water from the coral pond drains into. And we've set up our temporary sump with the biological media from the LPS Lagoon. We've got the keto reactor. There's one of the two Niles quantum skimmers. The second one's already on the new tank, and it's running as a normal system, and most importantly, we're keeping the biological stability of the system. So when we move all of this into the tank, it's all going to be healthy, and we're hopefully not going to suffer any spikes of ammonia. We also have this IBC, which is where we put all the fish. And this is one of the critical things about this system. We had to ensure that the fish weren't going to jump out, which would have been a risk with the pond. We had to ensure that the corals had enough space. So the combination of the IBC with the pond for the coral and the temporary sump filter has worked beautifully. And it's hard to see the fish in this tank, but I mean, there's things like an Achilles tang, there's a blonde naso, royal gramma. I can see them just through the ripples of the water, but they're all doing really, really well. And today's job is going to be to move the fish and the corals out of this temporary system and move them into the LPS Lagoon in its new location. Let's have a look at where everything is going to go. So this is the LPS Lagoon. As I said, it's 8 foot long by 3 feet wide by 2 feet high. It's a huge tank. And getting this tank from the previous location to its current location was a massive task in itself. It was just an unfortunate timing that we weren't able to film the move of this tank into its new location. But today's job is going to be getting everything from the temporary system into this tank. So we'll take you through how we're going to set it up and how we're going to move everything into this tank. So the first stage for today is going to be to move some water from the existing temporary system into the new tank. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to use my normal water transfer pump, and I've got the intake coming out of the IBC. I'm going to drain probably about 500 litres out of this tank and pump it into the new tank. I'm also going to take probably another 500-600 litres out of the coral pond. So I'll start by priming the line, and then I'll plug this in. So we dismantled this tank a week ago, and our job was the fish and the coral. We set up the system, we put everything in. One of the things that we didn't do was the sand, and so one of the other team members took all the sand out, put it in this tub, and I'm just about to open it to see how it's going. I'm a little bit worried because it's a lot of sand and it's been sitting here for a week. I'm a little bit worried it could have gone anoxic, but we'll have a look. Oh my god. All right. So I think this is the sand. Whatever is in here, there's a layer of scum on the top, and it's okay. This whatever's in okay. This is why you don't leave sand in a bucket with water. It's gone anoxic, and you can see this black silty bacteria, the scum on the top. We're not going to be able to use this sand. I was kind of hoping to be able to put a bit of sand in today, mainly so that there was more aerobic bacteria, but there is no aerobic bacteria in here, and if we were to put this sand in right now, it would probably kill everything. So we're probably going to have to start with new sand, but I'm putting the lid on this because it probably doesn't come across because I'm such a cool character, but this is grossing me out with the smell. It is horrendous. The cameraman's just stepped back a couple of steps, and I understand. Anyway, we're not using that sand. We've taken out as much water as we can from the fish IBC, and now we're draining water or sucking water from the coral pond into the tank. We're not going to use the sand as we just looked at, but I'm going to move the big bits of rock which are in with the fish into the tank whilst we're still pumping the water. I'm hoping that after that I'll be able to move the fish, but getting these rocks out is going to be a little bit difficult because they're big bits of rock, and it's really awkward to get into an IBC. But anyway, I'll start moving these into the tank. Lots of growth on this one. You can see the coralline algae, but also these yellow sponges. So looks pretty good actually. We've drained about half of the water out of our coral pond, and I just wanted to take a second to look at some of these corals because some of them are so beautiful, and they look so good at the moment under these hydras, but also because they're in shallow water and their colour's just popping. So there's heaps of euphilia. There's a whole heap of hammers and frog spawns and the like, and in the middle we've got the big Sinularia next to the Desha yesiana. I particularly like this dash here, and being in the pond has opened up so much. But there's rare Rhodactus, and there's actually a rose BTA in here, and the Scully. Pretty much everything has done really well since being in the pond. But we're going to stop draining the water out of the pond now because some of the corals are going to be out of the water in a second, and we're going to put a little bit of new natural seawater just to top up the system in the house. Our tank inside is full. We'll go have a look at that in a minute, but I've got the last rock in the IBC to pull out, so I'm going to grab that and then we can move the fish. The problem is it's so deep and it's such a big rock that it's actually a bit awkward. Ah! That was the IBC that broke. Anyway, I've got the rock. I'm just going to have to cop the fact that it's going to drip water on the floor, but I've got a few towels down, so all right. Beautiful. We're going to move all the fish and corals in before we work above the tank. We've actually got a frame that holds the lights that's going to sit on top of this tank, and it also has the plumbing from the return pump. So we can't hook up the system fully until everything is in there, because it gets in the way trying to do the aquascape and to add the corals. So let's go have a look at the plumbing for the return line, as well as the frame that's going to hold the lights. It's just outside. So this is the frame that's going to sit on top of the tank, and it holds this plumbing system, which has got, what is it, 8 return lines, each with this adjustable nozzle with the duckbill. So it gives a nice even flow from the return back into the tank. There's a rail through the middle that holds the hydras so we can slide them along. But you can see there's not a lot of space to get into the tank once this is in place. And because there's the return plumbing here, we can't hook up the return pump until the coral is in the tank and this is on top of the tank and plumbed in. So this will be one of the last things we do before we leave today. So I'm going to move the fish into the new tank, and given that we've used 90% of old water from this system in the tank to fill it, I'm not going to worry about acclimating them. I'm just going to move them in, just using the bucket. So hopefully they'll be easy to catch out, because all the rocks are gone, but it is a little bit awkward. All right, so there's the naso that I was talking about. You have to be careful they don't jump out of the bucket. That's the worst thing. In fact, I might move this guy by himself, but just have a look. This fish is so nice. Blonde naso. They get really big. They're so beautiful. All right, straight into the tank. Watch this. I think it's a coal tang and raw grammar. I'll move these guys in. I'll be back. So this IBC has got a big, I don't know, like a hole where the valve is for the water to come out of. And I can see some fish hiding in that hole, and I'm worried that it's going to be very hard to get them out. And I'm worried I might actually have to, midnight clown, I might have to actually get in the IBC to get them out. Flame hawk, nice. Okay. All right, I wish I'd worn shorter shorts, because I'm gonna have to get in there. It's gonna be so cold. Alright, if I get stuck, I need to get a ladder. I see if this will work too. It's freezing. Alright, we're back in a sec. Oh, got him. It was 2 centipede angels right in that hole. They didn't want to come out too. Come on. Alright, check them out. Beautiful. Beautiful, stubborn little guys. It occurred to me too that there is a rabbit fish in here, which I don't think I've caught out. I can see it. He's swimming around nibbling at my tootsies. But if that was the rabbit fish in that hole and I was sticking my finger in, I could have got spined. So I should be more careful. Anyway, the rabbit fish is the last one, I think. All right, here he is. So check out this guy quickly. He's a barred rabbitfish. So they've got venomous or slightly venomous spines. So you should always be careful when handling them. I was going to check that hole in the valve and make sure there's no more fish in there. Oh. I found a strom. That is a big Bacillopora. It's so cool. One of the things I'm being really careful with transferring these corals is to ensure that I don't stress them out or damage them or pierce the tentacles in any way unnecessarily. So the way I'm doing this is I'm actually using a bucket which I'm filling with water, and I'm keeping the corals, particularly the Euphyllia, under the water the whole time. So you can see these hammers, and I'm going to take about, I don't know, 2/3 of a bucket. The water's a bit dirty, but doesn't really matter too much. We'll have the filter going soon. So we've got the hammers underwater, and you can see that they're still open up fully. Their polyps are out. They're still they're happy at the moment. And now, keeping them underwater the whole time. Hard to see, but that's a toxic green and 2 oranges. And just not removing them from the water is just a more gentle way to transfer these corals. I'm not doing it for everything. Wouldn't worry about it with the SBS so much. But definitely the hammers are not being removed from the water. Finished this stage of our massive epic tank relocation. We've got all the fish and corals and live rock in place, and everything's looking very happy. We haven't done any aquascaping yet. We've really focused on just ensuring that the fish and corals are in their new tank and are happy and healthy and safe. There's a lot of work that we have to do on this tank in upcoming episodes of Aquatica TV. There's cladding that needs to go onto the cabinet. The aquascape, of course, is probably the next big thing that needs to happen, as well as some cable management and such. But I think you'll find this tank is going to be an absolutely beautiful addition to this house. It was a nice tank, it was a very nice tank in the previous house, but in this location I think it's going to be even better. So we'll come back and see this tank in future episodes of Aquatica TV. But anyway, that's today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cam the Fish Guy, and happy reefing.